Okay, so now we're going to be doing the notes for 8-2. We're going to be multiplying polynomials by monomials. The directions, you have your notes, and they should be glued onto the right-hand side of page 46 of your composition book. There's 2 pages. The multiplying polynomials by binomials should be at the top, and then finding the GCD should be at the bottom. So find those pages if you have them in front of you. Okay, so we are going to be finding the product. So we're going to be multiplying. We're going to write our answer in standard form, which again is descending order according to the exponent. So our exponents up there 2, 1, none. The way I'm going to show you how to do this is I'm going to show you, we're going to use a box method. So we've got a monomial, which is a 1 term. So we have 3a squared. And I'm going to make a box for the amount of other terms that we have that are in parentheses. And we have 2 terms, so I'm going to make a box of 2. At the top of those boxes, I'm going to put the letter A, and I'm going to put -2. That's at the top of each of the boxes here. I'm going to draw a line. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to multiply. There is an invisible 1 in front of that A, so it's 3 times 1. That's a 1. 3 times 1 is 3. And now we're multiplying bases. What do we do with the exponents? Again, there's an invisible 1 here. So 2 plus 1 is 3, so it's a to the 3rd power. And then we're going to go 3 times -2 is -6. And then we have a squared. So our answer is 3a to the 3rd power minus 6a. And that's our monomial multiplied by our binomial. Binomial, because there's 2 terms. Okay, number 2, the box is already set up there for you. I'm going to put my box in. And so we've got a monomial, which is 1 term. And then we are going to be multiplying by a binomial, which is 2 terms. So we're going to put our -5. I'll need a little bit more space. So at the outside of your box there, put your -5x squared. And now at the top of the box, x squared. And at the top of the other box, +3x. Okay, so now again, there's an invisible 1 in front of the x. So it's going to be -5 times 1 is positive. Negative times a positive is a negative. It's a positive 1. So we have a -5x. And it's x to the, there's 2 here and 2 there, to the 4th power. Then -5 times +3 is -15. And we have an x, but we have a 2x and a 1x, so it's x to the 3rd power. So we have -5 x to the 4th power minus 15 x to the 3rd power. And they are in descending order. It goes from 4 to 3, and this one we went from 3 to 1, so they're in descending order. You might want to make sure you check that. Okay, the next one we have, it's a trinomial, and there's a box here. We're going to put our box here. It's a trinomial. Try to make my box big enough so that I can write in it a little bit bigger. Okay, so I have a trinomial. So I've got b squared at the top of this box, -2b at the top of that box, plus 2 over here. And this one is multiplying from the back door, so we're going to go ahead and put our -5b here. Okay, so again, we have an invisible 1. So 1 times -5, I'll do it right this time, it's -5. Then we have a b, but how many b's do we have? We have a 2 here, and there's an invisible 1 here, so it's b to the 3rd. Then we have -2 times -5, negative and negative is a positive. 2 times 5 is 10. And then we have b, and there's an invisible 1 here, so 1 plus 1 is 2. And then 2 times -5 is -10. And there's just 1b. So our answer is -5 b to the 3rd plus, that's a 10 in there, 10b to the 2nd minus 10b. Okay, so now that's my answer for this third one, and it goes in standard form. So 3, 2, 1. And here's my answer for the second one. I'll go ahead and put a box around it, red box. Okay, so the A, B, and C, I'd like you to stop the lesson and go back to A, B, and C and check your work. I will go through while you're doing that and write down the correct answers. Okay, so the answers to A was 6x squared plus 2x, to B, and B was negative 6y to the fourth minus 12y to the third plus 14y to the second. And the last one, letter C, was negative 5b to the third plus 10b to the second minus 10b. And I realize it's the same problem as number 3, so hopefully you tried that and got the right answer. Okay, the next section, we're going to be simplifying. We've got a monomial times a binomial plus a monomial times a binomial. So we have to do 2 multiplication problems and then combine like terms. So I'll go ahead and set up our boxes. On the outside we have 3x, and we have our box here. I'm going to need a little bit more space. Let me erase this. Need to move it down a little bit. Okay, so I need to make, so I can write on the top. Okay, so I have a 5 and a negative x on top of that. And then over here I have a plus 6x. And I have a box, and on top of that box I have an x and a negative 2. So let's go through and just do our multiplication. So 3 times 5 is 15x, and negative 1 times 3 is negative 3, and we have x to the second. Okay, over here we have 6x to the second, because we're adding exponents, and negative 12x. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to combine like terms. So again, we can use our buckets to do this. So x to the second powers will go in this bucket, and then the x's will go over here. So these are my labels from my bucket. So x to the second powers, I have a negative 3x to the second power. I use that one. And I have a positive 6x to the second power. Okay, I did that one. Okay, and then I've got 15x and a negative 12x. Okay, now I'm going to change my colors. Lots of red colors down there. Okay, now I'm going to add what's in my bucket. So my x to the second powers are 6 minus 3 is 3x to the second power. And then 15 minus 12 is positive 3x. Okay? Let me see now. Let me make sure I wrote my problem down. Let me check it real quick. Okay, and I notice I did do an error here. I typed the wrong problem. Your problem has a 2 right here. So we're going to make this, I'm going to make mine so we get the same answer, 2x, not just x. Okay, so that's going to change my one box right here. I'm going to go ahead and erase that. And that's going to make this box right here a negative 2. Okay, so now I have a negative 6x. Okay, so now squared, 6x squared. Okay, so now I have a negative 6x squared and a positive 6x squared. That's gone, so I don't have that. And now when I add these together, I subtract them, I get x to the 3x, and that's my answer. That's what you would have gotten. Because I typed it wrong, I ended up with a different answer than you, but I'll go ahead and make sure that you got the right answer, which is 3x. Okay, let me make sure that I typed the second one okay. according to yours, and I did. So go ahead and stop the lesson, try letter D, and then we'll come back to it in just a minute. Okay, I went ahead and did the work on the one that said you try letter D. So just in case you didn't follow along with what I was doing last time because of my error, go ahead and check what I did and make sure you got the same answer. 3x a second minus 11x. Okay, now we're going to go down at the bottom of this page, and we are going to use a little bit of shapes, geometry. We're going to try a triangle and a rectangle. So it says find the perimeter of the triangle. And how do you find the perimeter of a triangle? You're just going to add all the sides, and then on the find the area of the rectangle, you're going to multiply both sides. So it's just finding the area and finding the perimeter. So on the one that says find the perimeter, we're just going to go ahead and we're just going to add 5x minus 2 plus 4x plus 7 plus, open that sheet, be x to the second power. So it's going to be x to the second power minus 3x plus 1. Okay, and then what we're going to do is just make our buckets. Okay, so I have x squared here. I have x's, and I have numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and put circles around my titles so I don't accidentally add those into my buckets. Okay, so I have a 5x. I'll put it in the x bucket. I use that one. I have a negative 2. I use that one. I have a 4x. Cross that off. I have a 7. Cross that off. X to the second power, just one of them. A negative 3x. And a 1. So now I have x to the second power. That's only a thing I have in the x to the second power, this x squared box. I have a 5 and a 4. That's 9. 9 minus 3 is 6, and it's positive 6x. And I have a negative 2 and a positive 7, so that is 7 minus 2 is 5. And then 5 plus 1, because that's in a 1 here. It looks like a long 7, but it's a plus 1, is going to be 5 plus 1 is 6. So that is the perimeter of that triangle. Okay, and the next one, you're just going to try on your own. You're going to multiply. It's going to be x squared times negative 5x plus 8. And go ahead and multiply that, making your x squared on the outside of your box, and then creating a box as a negative 5x plus 8. Okay, and I'll go ahead and stop the lesson and you do the work and then come back and check. Okay, so the answer to that one is negative 5x a second plus 8x. That is the area of that rectangle. Oh, alright, so now you're flipping it over to the next page. In the next page, you're going to find the greatest common divisor. So what we're going to do is we're going to find numbers and letters that the terms have in common. So if I look at 8, 8 is you can multiply 1 times 8 and 2 times 4. Okay, no other pairs will multiply together to give me 8. On 4, I can multiply 1 and 4 and 2 and 2. Okay, then I'm going to look at the greatest number that they have in common, and that's going to be a 4. So they both have a 4. So my greatest common divisor is a 4. Okay, same thing with the next one. We're going to look at 4. You can multiply 1 times 4 and 2 times 2. And I'll change the color. On the 8, you can do 1 and 8 2, and 4. And then those 3, and then 4. Okay, and then for 8, we've got 1 and 8, 2, times 4, and that's the same 8 as that 8. Okay, so now, what is the greatest common divisor that they have? They all have, the biggest number they all have in common is a 4. So our greatest common divisor is a 4. Okay, and then I look, this one has a c to the third, this one has a c to the second, and that one doesn't have a c. So the greatest common factor or divisor that they have is a 4. Okay, looking at number 14, or number 3, it has a 14, so it's 1 times 14, 2 times 7, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, there's nothing else that multiplies to give me 14. And then I look at 7, I just have a 1 times a 7. Okay, but now let's look at the x's. Now this one has 1, 2, 3 x's. The other term has 2 x's. Okay, so what do they have in common? They have, the greatest number they have in common is a 7, because they both have 7s, so we're going to write that down. And then this one has 2 x's. It actually has 3, but they have 2x here and 2x there, so they both have x to the second in common. So that's a greatest common divisor for the number 3. Okay, number 4. It has a 1 and an 8, a 2, and a 4. Okay, 4 has a 1 and a 4 and a 2 and a 2. 12, you can multiply 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. I think that's all of them. So now I look to see what is the greatest common factor that they have, our greatest common number. This has an 8, no 8, no 8. Okay, then I go down. Okay, this has a 4, this has a 4, and that is 4. So they all have a 4 in common. So that's the greatest common divisor as far as the number. This one, the first one, the A's, there's 3 of them here. With the 4, there's 2 of them, 2 A's. And with the 12, there's 1 A for the 12. Somewhere is my cursor. Where did it go? Okay, it says A. Oop, it's over here. Okay, so what do they have in common? The largest, they all have 1A. That's all they have in common. This one has 3. But this only has 2, and that one only has 1. So the largest number they have in common is just, or letter they have in common is just A. So it's 4A is their greatest common divisor. Okay, last little bit here. Now we're going to factor each polynomial. Okay, and we're going to take out, we're going to look at each of the equations and take out what they have in common. Okay, and again, you can list them. Hopefully you're getting the idea, you're not going to have to list them. So this one has a 1 and an 8, a 2, and a 4. And this one, 10 has a 1 and a 10, a 2, and a 5. Okay, and the greatest common factor that they have in common, they both have a 2. So I pull a 2 out, and I put a parenthesis here. Then I say 2 times what is going to give me 8, and it's going to be 4. Okay, 2 times what is going to give me 8, and then I have an x. Then 2 times what is going to give me a 10, and I have a 5. So now when I multiply this, I go 2 times 4 is 8x. 2 times 5 is 10. And see, it's like, this is where it started, and I've got where it ended. So they're giving me the answer, and I want to find out where did it start. Okay, so on the next one, 6h to the second, negative 8h. So this one has a 1 and a 6 and a 2 and a 3. And this has a 1 and an 8 and a 2 and a 4. So now what is the greatest common divisor? They both have a 2. So I'm going to pull the 2 out and put it to the side. But they both have 1h. So I'm going to put that outside. And then I'm going to put my parentheses. And now I ask myself, 2 times what is going to give me 6? And I said 3. H times what is going to give me h to the second? And that's another h. And then I have 2h times what, or 2 times what is going to give me 8. And I'm going to say our negative 8 is going to be a negative 4. And then we just already have 1h. So now when I multiply this, I go 2 times 3 is 6. H times h is h squared. Then I go 2 times negative 4 is negative 8h. And so again, they gave me the answer. I wanted to know, where did it start? How did they get 6h squared minus 8h? Okay, let's try the next one. Okay, what do they have in common? This has an x, an x, and an x. And this one has 2 x's. So how many x's they have in common? They both have 2 x's. So that's what I'm going to put on the outside of my parentheses, x squared. Then I say x squared times what is going to give me x to the third, and it's one more x. Then x squared times what is going to give me negative 5x squared, and it's going to be a negative 5. And so that's my answer for that one. So they gave me the answer, and where did it start? Okay. All right, I'm going to let you try the others on your own. I will stop it, and then when you come back and see if your answer matches mine. Okay, for number 8, I went ahead and I showed you my work, and I found out that they all have a 2 in common, and they all have an a, so I pulled my 2 out, and then when I multiplied this, I ended up getting the answer. So I have 2a times 3a squared minus 6a plus 7. And so when I multiply that out, that's what I'm going to get. Okay, so that was my final answer right here. That's what you should have came up with. Okay, number 9, again I showed you my work. In case you're not sure what I did, you might want to look at that. And then my final answer is right here. AW times w squared plus 3w minus 2. Okay, number 10, this is my answer. And I can double check that by just doing multiplication and see if it multiplies to get where I started. And then the last one, the only thing the last one had in common was a c. There was no numbers because 7 is a prime number, and you can't times anything by 7 to get 9, nor can you times anything 7 to get 18. So just c is what they have in common. So this was my answer for number 11. C times 18, c to the third, minus 9c plus 7. Okay, hopefully you got it. If you don't, make sure you ask questions tomorrow. Thank you.